Everyone likes to talk about stats, but do we really know what the stats are? Hey huns, welcome to my channel. I'm dami.zain. If you are new here, thank you for clicking on this video. If you're already subscribed, thank you for coming back. My very first video on this channel, I addressed some comments that a British-born comedian made about how black men don't like black women in the UK and how black women keep taking L's from black men in the UK. The video is here. You can find it on my channel and I'll probably link it below if you want to see what I said before. But this is technically a part 2 because the comments... The comments under this video were very interesting. I had a mixed bag. I had black men saying they only really date black women. I had black women saying they only really date white men. I had Caribbeans saying that there's a difference between the black Caribbean experience and the black African experience. And I had some people who were mad at me because, you know, they felt that we were trying to gaslight them, even though my video was very clear about the fact that London's experience is valid. People have London's experience, but social media likes to make it seem like nobody has mine, and that's why I made my video. But anyway, the reason why I'm talking about this again is because I feel like we need to do a deeper dive into the topic and really discuss some of the challenges that we're having in the UK when it comes to dating whilst being black. Before I get into it, I just want to caveat this video by saying to you that this is my opinion, dami.zain's opinion. And of course, I'm opening up the comment section so you can share yours as well, but keep it respectful. If you make it to the end of this video and you haven't subscribed, click the button, you know what to do. If you enjoyed the video as well, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps push my channel. A comment I saw coming up a lot on my previous video was statistics. The stats say this, the stats say that. So I'm going to start with the stats. And this is the data from the Office for National Statistics. Now, according to the 2011 census, 48 to 60% of black Caribbean men were in an interracial relationship, primarily with white partners, whereas 30 to 40% of black Caribbean women were in interracial relationships. Approximately 20 to 25% of black African men were in interracial relationships, compared to about 23% of black African women who were also reported to be in interracial relationships. We also had another census in 2021, and that revealed that 1 in 10 people in England and Wales were in interracial relationships, with the most common pairing being white British with other ethnicities. It doesn't really give us much of a breakdown of what the stats are between each ethnic group. That hasn't been published yet. However, obviously, if the numbers were that high in 2011, we can argue that the numbers would be even more than that now. I have left the sources in the description, so if you want to know where I got these stats from, you can find it in there. Now, looking at these stats, it's clear that black Caribbean men tend to date interracially a lot more than black African men. It's also clear that both black Caribbean men and black African men are more likely to date interracially than black women, period. But with that being said, a significant portion of the black population are still dating within the black community, because look, 48 to 60% of black Caribbean men were in interracial relationships at the time of this census, right? That's telling me that about 50 to 40% of them were still dating within our ethnic group. Likewise, for black African men, approximately 20 to 25% of black African men were in interracial relationships at the time of this census. That tells me that at least 80 to 75% of them were still dating within our ethnic group. That is a significant portion of them still dating within the black community. And therein lies my point. This whole thing about, oh, black British men don't like black British women, they don't date us, they only date white. It's not true. Even the stats show that. If it was like 80% for both black Caribbean and black African men, then I would be like, you know what, cool, because they're only checking for us 20% of the time. And I feel like as a community, we should be looking at things holistically instead of focusing on the negative so much. I go where the love is. If you don't like me, that's fine. It's likely that I don't like you either. I actually think there's a number of reasons why dating whilst being black in the UK is very, very difficult. And I'm going to briefly touch on a few of these. But of course, again, I'm opening the comments up to more discussion about this. There is a lot of negative stereotypes out there about Black men and Black women. And I think that perpetuates negative perceptions of our community and therefore lead to less opportunities for genuine connection between people. When you look at what they say online about Black women, it's always we're loud, we're aggressive, we've overly sexualized ourselves, we've got too much attitude. Because they buy into the stereotypes of Black women so much, they've decided to prefer to go somewhere else. I actually think most of the time it's a conscious choice. And that's coming from a Black woman that generally says that she only finds Black men attractive. However, I can identify a good-looking Asian guy. I can identify a very good-looking white guy. And I've been attracted to them before. But I made the choice to prefer Black men. There's a difference between attraction and preference. And I think people get that mixed up. I'm just saying. Social media is one big algorithm, and the more you entertain a certain narrative or a certain type of content, that is all you're going to see. And so as a result of that, especially when you're chronically online, these stereotypes become indoctrined. It starts to feed into how you perceive the world, how you perceive your reality, when really it's just trolls online talking rubbish most of the time. If I based my type on what I see on social media alone, I wouldn't date Black men, because all I see on social media most of the time is misogyny. And I'm probably going to touch on this another time because I really don't want my videos to be too long. But if you look at patriarchy and how Black men are treated within, it is no surprise that some of them decide that they want to be as close to whiteness as possible. It might not necessarily be that they just don't find Black women attractive. It could literally be that they think that Blackness is suffering because that's what we've been taught, that's what we've been conditioned to believe, and whiteness is where it's at if you want to succeed. Food for thought. Black people as a whole are often objectified. We are seen as objects. We are seen as commodities. And whether you are dating within the community or you're dating interracially, that can have some negative impact on your dating experience. For instance, in the media, including social media, we have seen time and time again white women over-sexualizing Black men. You know, the fact that he's probably got a mandingo, his sexual prowess, blah, blah, blah. Just putting the over-sexualization of Black men to the side, there's also this obsession with Black features and wanting to be as close to Blackness as possible, mimicking and cultural appropriation, wanting, if not them, but their own kids to have our features, from a lighter shade of our skin tone, our full lips, our hair, whatever it might be. That is probably one of the driving forces for why Black men have been appealing to white women for a very long time. Fundamentally, fetishization plays a significant part in the problem with dating interracially and intraracially. Something needs to be said about dating bias, because I've noticed that it's difficult to meet people in real life now. The way we socialized has completely changed. I don't know if it's to do with lockdown and the C word. I don't know if it's because people are all in their technology now and all on their phone, and the rise of AI and all of these other contributing factors. People are relying now on meeting on social media, so sliding in the DMs, and online dating in particular. There's studies that show that there is a lot of bias. I was on TikTok the other day and this girl was saying how she switched her profile to say that she was white, and then she hid it from the profile, and all of a sudden her options became wider. Like, she was getting a lot more interaction from men, including Black men, compared to what she was getting when she had set her profile to show that she was actually Black. So not only was your profile being hidden from Black men when you actually told these apps that you were Black, but once you told these apps you were white, your profile was being seen by more Black men, and more Black men were swiping right for you. Suspicious? I think so. So I thought, okay, let me try it out. Let me see. My profile was set to Black. I was getting checked. But when I set my profile to white, and I told the profile that I'm a white woman and hid that, same pictures, and you can see I'm blackety black, I was getting double, if not 3 times the amount of attention from Black men than I was when my ethnicity was correctly identified on the app. What does that tell you? There is online bias when it comes to dating, and that is also creating barriers in our dating experience. Now, when these biases are compounded by societal norms, it's no surprise to me that Black women are finding it difficult to date in the UK. European standards of beauty is typically put at the forefront in everything we see, everything. European beauty has been the standard, and the Black people that are deemed to be closer to that standard tend to be the ones that are more desirable. It's only in the last, I would say, 10, 15 years where we've seen Black beauty coming more towards the front. We only have 1 or 2 or 3 Black people in the limelight who are very big and bad about their Blackness and are seen as beautiful by not just the Black community, but by people outside of the Black community as well. When you look at influencers, when you look at celebrities, and when you think about the fact that we've all been conditioned and we've all been socialized to see lighter skin as attractive, to see European beauty standards as the goal, it is no surprise that that becomes the preference. And the biases I just spoke about that we're seeing in dating compounds the feeling that we are not attractive, that we are not wanted, because we're having difficulty being picked in the first place. Now, I'm not saying we're not being picked, because some of us are, but it can contribute to why it can feel like we are undesired. I would be doing the stats an injustice if I didn't talk about the cultural differences. In the comments, it came up quite a lot, this difference between African culture and Caribbean culture. I have blood relatives that are half Caribbean, so I'm close to the culture, but I wouldn't say I'm close enough to speak on the experience. So I'm only going to speak on African experience. And I feel like Africans are quite similar to the Asian community in terms of its values around this. This is especially from the generation above us. Like when I look at my parents, my aunties and uncles and their friends from that generation, it's very much, we don't want you to lose your culture. We don't want you to forget where you came from. We would prefer that you date within your race. However, when we do date out, it's not a matter of, oh, we're going to disown you, you're a disgrace. Like, it's not that deep, but there's definitely more pressure to stay within your culture. And actually, there are some parts of Africa that are very strict about this compared to others. I even know of African cultures that don't even want you to date other Africans. They only want you to date the same country, the same tribe, the same village, the same dialect as their own. They don't want you to date out. I can even say as a Yoruba woman, because I don't want to talk about anybody else. I don't want anyone saying I'm speaking for them. There are Nigerians that live in the UK where their parents are so Nigerian. If they were to bring a white person into the house, that white person might not be comfortable. I'm talking, they will not eat food that is not Nigerian. When it comes to wedding traditions, they're not going to budge, they're not going to shake, they're not going to move. It must be the Nigerian way. So bringing someone into that space, it would have to be someone that is ready to conform. And I think that sometimes can be the reason why we are seeing less African men dating outside. They still do it. Don't get me wrong. The stats said 20 to 25%. They still do it, but it's just not as much. I think class and economic disparities often intersect with race, and this makes it difficult for Black people to meet potential partners in a diverse socio-economic space. And when you think about the fact that systematic racism within, for example, education system, the workforce and etc., creates tension within races, particularly for Black women, I think this has an impact on our dating experience and why it's often difficult for us to meet people and to feel like we are desired by people within and outside of our race. So what are the solutions? I don't know. I think I've only scratched the surface when it comes to this conversation. I've spoken about this at a very high level, but there's definitely a lot more factors as to why dating in the Black community is difficult. And I think we should be having a wider conversation about it as a community. I do think we're being pitted against each other, not just in the dating scene, but even when it comes to how Black people see each other from different cultures. Like, there's this whole Black American versus Black British debate because of lack of education, because of lack of empathy and the ability to just say, okay, these are my experiences, these are your experiences, they can coexist. Let's learn to understand each other and have productive conversation. That is what is causing the divide. And I will talk about that in the next few weeks. This is also the case when it comes to the reason why Black women are choosing not to date Black men anymore. Because I've also seen this narrative of
Black women hate Black men. There's double standard. They don't like it when we date other people, but they're there dating other people as well.
Listen, a lot of those women that are divesting, they weren't divesting from the beginning. It's a reaction. The whole divesting thing all came about because black women were upset with black men. They are disenfranchised with black men, and they decided, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. To conclude, because Lord, my mouth is dry. Black men date interracially more than black women, but there's still a significant proportion of black men dating within our ethnic group. There is a lot more at play than just they don't find us attractive. I rather focus on the quality of dating these men as opposed to whether they're dating us or not, or whether they find us attractive or not. We need more representation of black relationships, and not just black relationships that are failing, but black relationships that are thriving. I genuinely believe that if we saw more healthy relationships within our community, in the media, that includes social media, it would increase our feeling of desirability, both within black men and black women. Because right now, both black men and black women feel like the opposing side hates them. As ever, I'm going to open the comments out to you. I want to hear your experiences, your opinions on dating as a black person in the UK. I want to hear your challenges. I want to hear good examples of healthy relationships. Please leave a comment if you have something to share. Please keep it respectful. I don't want to have to block people.